Hi there, I thought I'd just record a short video to update where the battle is. We're just about to start the turn after the noon turn. Noon is exactly halfway in the length of game turns of the battle, and the Allied are adding their Imperial Guard corps to the leader initiative markers. So the last couple, that's the Imperial Guard down there. They're just forming themselves up, ready to attack through here. The last couple of turns were sort of relatively quiet because we only had this number of limbs, and you can see nearly all of them are French. So the French have been attacking, and the Allied not much. No limbs were being added for the last couple of turns. So both sides now want to sort of go in for the kill, essentially. So over here on the Allied left, we have a relatively quiet sector. They didn't manage to gain the Telnitz. Essentially, they didn't have enough force here to take it. They should have used all three of these forces, I think, one here, and then the third to follow up. I'm talking about divisions, infantry divisions, to take it. So that they just really started to get underway when the French 3rd divisions started coming on here. And these two divisions of the first column had taken undefended Sokolnets, and they were just moving out of it, thinking they would set up a cordon round here, but then the strength of the 3rd division just looked too much, so they've been withdrawing back here over the last about an hour and a half. So that's what, 5 or 6 turns. So fatigue is low, no fatigue here, and these are all low on fatigue, seeing as they have been either marching up slowly or withdrawing from the fighting. You can see the last of the advance guard cavalry moving through, had to quickly skedaddle through the woods, and the Sokolnitz itself there. They're aiming to form up on the flank round here, and the French 3rd Division cavalry are coming here. It's a bit awkward. Ideally they'd like to go all the way around here, but that would kind of split the force, because this will be in between, could be out of command range. So they're looking to get their limb so they can activate it separately and move around here. That will take some time. Otherwise the infantry is forming up, and I think essentially they will wait till the cavalry come, and these decide they have to move back, and then the infantry can move over the river. So it's kind of quite sort of stalemate over there. Now over on the Allied right is a very different situation. You see all these routed markers. Bagration's corps is broken, so his 2 infantry divisions are broken, and he has a couple of cavalry divisions. Actually, I'd forgotten about the cavalry divisions, so they might, on balance, they might keep the corps from being unbroken. Essentially, when you're broken, you can only do limited activations, which means you're not going to be going into combat. Essentially only defend, which is essentially what Bagration needs at the moment anyway. As you can see, these units are all bunched up here. You can't actually route off the board, so every hex which was supposed to route off the board, you use a strength marker. So Oudinot's division had gone into the attack, and the French, you can see they're reaching exhaustion level 5 now, so they're going to start taking minuses. Some of them have been pushed back. This one's at breakpoint, this one's at breakpoint. So there was a spirited defence by Bagration's infantry, but it just wasn't enough, because previously they had been attacked by Lannes' 5th Corps on 2 fronts, and the cavalry were sort of stalemated each other. There were some cavalry charges. These have been recovering, these have been recovering, these have been recovering. but what with the Allied not being able to get the initiative markers in the cup, so I was using ones over here and here that they had available. These cavalry haven't been able to do some charges. They would have liked to have charged, swept these away and come around, but then of course Lannes 5th Division Cavalry, he's got a whole cavalry division with his corps. They have supplemented the French, so again it's kind of like a cavalry stalemate on the flank there. Meanwhile we had the 1, 2 and then 3 blow from the French, which has broken the 2 infantry divisions of Bagration. So the French are performing very well there, but you can see they've had to use a whole corps complete with a cavalry division of its own, some independent cavalry and another division. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 divisions against 4 divisions of Bagration's corps. I believe he's in, I think he's got 2 cavalry, sometimes cavalry, 2 divisions. So that's destroyed Bagration, but it's taking time, and of course meanwhile things are developing here. So in the centre you can see lots of yellow markers, which means a lot of activity, lots of shaken and unsteady. Now we just had the last turns rally, so quite a few have come off. There were many more on the board before, but essentially what's happening is this is the 4th Corps, so one of the divisions of the 4th Corps. The other ones here, remember, they're still resting, so there's sort of quietude there, but the rest of the 4th Corps that came up from here, so there's 3 divisions essentially. The 3rd Division came up here, this division's gone into attack here, and that was in consort with the 1st Corps, which has one of its divisions in full activation on the attack here. And they've actually bust through. You can see the odd one all the way back here, almost reaching the end. That's a broken Allied division, almost breaking through the Allied line. So it's kind of like an arrow shape. Just happened that way. So the line broke here. There's one whole corps that's been wrecked. It's got one. I think that's the remaining leader. One, I should say, column. The right part of the 4th column, that's the single remaining unit. So there's a lot of devastation there. So you can see it's holding on that side and this side, and these ones are just moving up. Hopefully they'll get an activation marker so they can go into the attack. You can see there's some French routing and some unsteadiness. Some French are routed back here. So their attacks are not without cost, but they have another division from the 1st Corps there. They have, which is completely fresh. This one could move in now because it's been, it's still on 4, so it's still in this exhaustion. It needs to rest a bit more. But we have a fresh cavalry division there as well, and then some sort of pickets around here, and then the Imperial Guard there. Now essentially they would like to sweep through here after French combats and clear up whoever's left, but you can see the deployment of the Allied, in fact Russian Imperial Guard, and they are, as you saw, they're going to be committing themselves. So essentially they're going to try and bust through to come into the French rear. This is their, what with their centre but just about holding, but possibly being penetrated. It all depends really on how quickly the 2nd Division, the 1st Corps, can get there, and then the cavalry coming through, whether that will wholly crumble. So with that danger in mind, the Imperial Guard are being committed. I don't know if it's too soon, but they had an option to commit a whole corps. They had a lucky roll, and you don't get that so often for a rolled a 0, the best roll they could get. I don't get that so often, so I thought it better to do it now than never. Here we've got various cavalries facing off, some charges, some sort of swirling around. So these ones charged here, these ones were pushed back the Russians came up here, pushed back some French, and then this one's coming round the back of these French. But again, because they don't have they lost the activation. No, oh no, sorry, yeah, they are still activated, but yeah, they're becoming. In fact, it should be exhausting. That I'd forgotten that one. That's only been fairly recent. Otherwise, again, that would have happened sooner because some more of the reserves are up there. So that there could be a lot of cavalry, the Imperial cavalry and the Allied reserve cavalry, hoping to bust around here while the Imperial infantry go up that way. So there's a wheeling movement here, and that's probably going to engage the Imperial Guard there. So it will be up to these to break through the line. And over here we have the French cavalry reserve of Murat coming around here. So again, it's the French have been 3 turns without any leader initiative markers. So again, they've just been sort of quietly organising, waiting to unleash the beast, as it were. You can see a lot of combat along this line. They've been well pushed back since these came in. So it's looking dicey for the Allied, but it's not over yet. Essentially, they want to just try and hold on without getting completely decimated. And I think it's gonna hinge on these ones. Like if these and 1 or 2 of these divisions remain at the end of the day, then that would be considered an Allied victory. So the question is, can the French crush the centre quick enough to then move and finish off, and crush that wing as well? It might not be possible with the guard being tied up by the other guard on the other side. So this was very interesting. We had a decent it was battered line here, but it just fell apart in one go because of the way the morale works. Is essentially one unit here routed, so the next one had to check for morale. He was already unsteady, missed morale, so he routed, so the next one had to check. So every time an adjacent unit goes unsteady or routes, you have to check for morale. So just from the infantry fire from this one on this unit broke the line all the way along there because they were already shaken or unsteady, didn't get low enough rolls, and not super high morale anyway. It just disintegrated. And that's more or less what had been happening around here. That's where the lines, you get the breakthroughs. So that's just an update. I'm quite happy because I'd reached this point and I'd got to the kind of the mid-game hump. That one, where you're like, okay, I enjoy this game, but I've been playing it for a long time and it's a bit laborious because, for this one, there's a lot of pieces. I want to carry on, but I want to have a rest. And so, in fact, I set up the China War. I have to protect it from the cats. I set up the China War from strategy and tactics. So I guess that would be the next game I'm playing. I thought I'd start playing it as a break from this, but I pushed myself back into this. And I'm really glad I have. You can see what an exciting situation it is.